You've likely tried using a foam roller to help roll out a tight IT band to gain relief, and you likely have received some relief, which is great, but for some reason the IT band just continues to get tight. And the reason why is because we're not actually addressing the cause as to why the IT band got tight in the first place. So whether you are a runner or someone who likes to do a lot of workouts and squats in the gym, or you've just been seated all day and you're in a lot of hip flexion, then you get up, you start doing some activity, and the IT band gets tight, I'm gonna show you a progression model, which is really important to follow, to go from decompressing these areas to rebuilding how the body should be working so that we're actually addressing the root cause. The IT band is a thick band of fascia, of connective tissue that is very, very strong, and it helps to stabilize and support the hip and the knee. So the IT band connects from the top of the pelvis here down to the outside of the knee. And why that's important to understand is there's actually muscles that directly tie in and connect to the IT band. So if these muscles get really tight or they're overworked, then that can yank and pull onto the IT band, causing all of this tightness and pain. So the muscles that can cause this are the TFL, which is a really important muscle to understand and appreciate in this scenario. The TFL, especially when the pelvis is tipped forwards, it starts acting as a hip flexor and an internal rotator like this, where that's not its primary action, but it's starting to take on that role. So if it's constantly working and it ties into the IT band, then it's going to be tightening the IT band. But also the glute muscles tie directly into the IT band as well. If the glute muscles aren't actually working properly, then the IT band's taking a lot of that tension, a lot of that hit. So what we need to do is teach the pelvis how to go back into more of a neutral alignment like this to gain more hip flexion and external rotation. Because if we're stuck like this all the time, it gains more leverage for internal rotation. So once we start neutralizing and bringing the pelvis and the hip into external rotation, we can start kicking on the glute muscles. And that's going to bring us into that starting position that we want to be in. Now we also need to teach the hip how to genuinely internally rotate by using the proper internal rotators of the hip. So that is going to be another step of the equation. Once we start just getting this to internally rotate in more of a neutral alignment, that's a huge next step. And then we need to start strengthening and owning that space. So I'm going to be showing you some fascia decompression techniques. That's what I do. I show a lot of these techniques following the block therapy protocol that's more effective than foam rolling because the fascia is so tight, so dense that just rolling it stays on the surface. So we're going to start deep diving and really releasing some areas such as the TFL, even the IT band, and then we're going to start working in this progression to really start rebuilding your posture, your alignment, how your body should be moving so that we can actually get to the root cause of your tight IT band. So let's get started with our first techniques. Starting with step one, we're going to be doing a fascia decompression technique, and all you're going to need is a rolled up towel like this. Make sure that you compact it pretty tight. If you have a block from block therapy, of course you can use this. This will be more intense and definitely create more of a release. For this video, I'll show you using a rolled up towel. And now what I want us to do is first locate this ASIS bone here. So this ASIS bone is at the top of the pelvis. If I were to put the towel directly below, then we're going to start targeting the hip flexors, but it's right around here where the TFL is situated. So to get in, we're actually just going to go onto our side, find the top portion of the pelvis, and have the towel located right here. But I want you to be on the back part of the towel so that we can start searching forwards and get directly onto that TFL. So nice and slow, let's just bring yourself to the TFL and to the side hip area. It doesn't have to be necessarily exact. There's a lot of chaos that can go on in this area and a lot of tight fascia, tight muscles, etc. So let's straighten that bottom leg, and we're of course going to be working on the leg that has that tight IT band. If it's both, then you can do both sides. And now I'm just going to be up on my elbow like this. this, and now I'm already starting to feel some pressure build up, which is nice. But we're not wanting to just rock. When we rock, we stay, or if we roll, we just stay more on the surface layers of our tissue, where we want to get deep to actually create a release. So isometrically staying here and doing some slow, small movements helps to create more of a release of our fascia. So now that we're here, I have my top leg in front of me. I'm going to bring my top hand in front of me as well. Then nice and slow, I'm just going to start searching forward. So I'm not on the bone, I'm just below, and I'm finding those areas that are really tight. So now I know I'm on that TFL and it's pretty intense. A major key component here is to relax. So if you need to bring yourself flat to the floor like this, get a pillow for your head, of course you can do that. And then the more you can relax, the more the tissue will start to relax, and it's going to be more susceptible to change. Once we're here, let's connect to that breath. As you inhale, expand that belly, expand that rib cage. As you exhale, make it nice and small, and just continue that breath. If it's too painful and you can't breathe in a controlled way, ease off slightly and then reconnect at a less intensity. Now, if you want to intensify this more, you can bring this bottom leg up a little bit higher. You might feel a little bit of a stretch in this area, which is great. And then you can very slowly start moving front to back. You can start torquing and twisting into this area. When you find a pretty intense spot, you'll know when you find that and feel that, stay there and breathe. But it's very important that we spend a minimum of 3 minutes here. You can spend longer. You can spend 5 minutes if you would like, even longer if you feel that that's necessary. When you're ready, we're going to exhale up and off. And now I'm going to bring my hip to the floor, and now we can start working directly on the IT band, and you might start feeling more pain in this area. But I'm going to start resting my IT band, that vastus lateralis area, on the towel like this. And this for me is definitely more painful. So I'm just going to stay here. If you want more pressure, you can bring your opposite leg on top. And what's really great here is we want this fascia here, the IT band, to glide over top of the vastus lateralis, the outside of the quad. So if we slowly start bending at the knees, this will help release more adhesions and create more of a glide. So I'm just going to show this one position here. It's the exact same protocol. Spend a minimum of 3 to 5 minutes here. If it's too intense, ease off slightly, make sure you're breathing, and you can of course work the entire length of the IT band and spend a lot of time there. So when you're ready, exhale up and off, and you can spend a lot of time doing that. You can just hang out in front of a show or the TV and just do some of these techniques, and that will just at least get you out of that constant chronic tight pain. But now we have to start getting into more of the correctives. For this next step, we're going to start teaching the pelvis to go into more of that neutral alignment and create external rotation of the hips here. So all you're going to need is a light band, nothing too powerful, and something just to place your feet on a few inches up off of the ground here. And you could do this without an elevation, but I find that this is a little bit more beneficial to start really firing up the glutes, the glute medius, and to really just tell the TFL not to do too much work here. So I'm going to be putting the band around my knees and then having my feet flat on the floor. Now, first thing I want us to do is exhale fully and bring those low ribs down. When we exhale fully, I want you to start feeling that slight side ab engagement to lock us in. This is going to help rotate the pelvis a little bit more posteriorly, which is what we want here, and let's lock that in. Now, as we're breathing, we're staying in this locked position, so we're breathing throughout the rib cage. Now, I have my feet just flat on either the floor or on this slight elevation, and what I'm doing is I'm going to be bringing and posteriorly rotating my pelvis so much that I'm feeling my glutes activate. And I really want the glutes to fire up here. And then when we create external rotation, this is going to further engage the glutes and of course teach external rotation at the hips and the pelvis. So what we're going to do here is, as we are holding this position like this, we're going to externally rotate by bringing the knees out, and then we're going to be coming back and then let's bring the pelvis back to the floor. So that would be 1 rep. Then I want you to tuck and really feel the glutes activating. It looks very similar to a bridge, but just slight modifications here. Externally rotate and abduct those knees, and then slowly and consciously bring them in, and then come on back down. So we want to be following our breath as we do this. As you come up and as you pull the knees away, you can exhale, and then inhale nice and slow but very controlled, and then we'll be coming down. So you can perform, I like doing, it can be 8 to 10 repetitions. Do about 2 to 3 sets of those before moving on to our next exercise. This next step is going to start teaching us how to gently move more into internal rotation of the hip. So again, whatever side that needs more internal rotation, the side that has a tight IT band, is going to be the leg that is on the bottom here. So all you're going to need again is a rolled up towel. You can use a foam roller. You can even use like a squishy ball, anything really to place between the thighs that we can essentially roll. So as I get onto my side like this, I'm gonna have my hips anywhere between 60 to about 90 degrees of hip flexion. You can absolutely start at 60 and then work your way up as you gain more internal rotation. So find that happy medium for yourself. And then next, I want you to really exhale fully. I don't want you to extend the back too much. I want you to find that stacked position. Now, as we're here, you can rest your head on your arm, get relatively comfortable. So this is bringing my bottom leg into more hip internal rotation, and we're just gonna gently start rolling, but it's really important that we are doing this in a way so that our low back isn't using and performing this action. We wanna start separating the hips from the low back. So all I'm doing is, without really any pressure, I'm just going to gently inhale, bring my knee and my hip forwards directly over top of my bottom thigh. So I'm not going up and down like this. I'm rolling so that it is sliding and gliding directly over top of my other leg. So let's inhale and bring that knee forwards. As soon as you feel the low back is starting to dump forwards like this, that's your end range. If you can only go a centimeter or an inch, that's okay. Just use the amount of space that you have right now. We don't want to create more compensations here. So again, inhale forwards, and then exhale, I want you to pull back. So again, make sure you're not falling back like this and your low back is taking over. Stay square and just feel these movements happening in your hips. So nice and slow, inhale forwards, nice and slow, exhale backwards. Nothing else is moving. The upper body is staying still. The low back is relatively still. It might move slightly. That is okay. But again, I really want you to feel this in the hips. So perform about 8 to 10 repetitions following your breath. So again, inhale forwards, exhale backwards. Do at least 2, maybe even 3 sets before moving on to our next exercise, which is going to start teaching us how to strengthen and own more of that internal rotation space. Next, we're going to start strengthening and owning that internal rotation space at the hip while creating hip extension. So we're going to be doing a variation of a kickstand hip hinge here. All you're going to need is a band that you can wrap around your knee. So make sure that you secure it to something that won't kind of tip over and move around. And now, if I'm working on my right leg, I'm going to have the band wrapped around the inside portion of my thigh, of my knee here, so that is pulling my knee out. So this is forcing me to pull my knee in into adduction and internal rotation as we're performing this. Now let's get into this kickstand hinge, and I want the hips to be facing forwards the entire time. Now feel the foot contacts of the inner heel ball, the big toe, the outside of the 5th metatarsal head there, but I really want you to emphasize the inner heel and the ball of the big toe here, because that is going to bias more internal rotation, and that's what we should be pushing through. So now In this kickstand hinge like this, let's exhale fully, bring those low ribs down, bring that pelvis into a neutral alignment, and let's lock it in, because this is creating more internal rotation, but we want to make sure we're not extending that back. That's super important. We're not extending the back as we do this. So now make sure that knee is over approximately the second toe, and we're staying stacked and we're just hinging here. So I'm gonna bring my left hand to the front of my right pelvis, right hand onto my right glute, and nice and slow, I'm gonna start hinging forwards without turning to the left. If anything, turning just slightly towards the right to create more internal rotation. Then I'm gonna come back up into extension of that right hip. So if you need to or want to increase more demand, just step a little bit further away, and that's gonna pull the knee out. So make sure you're keeping that knee in. And then again, just to show another repetition, exhale fully, neutral pelvis, and then nice and slow, we're just hinging at the hip here, and you're gonna feel that right glute, or whatever glute you're working on, is going to be opening up. Push through those 2 points of contact with the foot, that is super important, and then come back up into full hip extension. Now, if you want to add load, this is optional, of course, put it in the opposite hand. The reason why we're doing this is to bring us more over to the right. We tend to push away from that side, and that's gonna create more of an internal rotation demand. And the exact same thing, we're gonna be hinging like this, keeping our pelvis square, straight ahead, or if anything, turn slightly towards that lead leg, and then you can perform about 8 to 10 repetitions like this and do about 2 to 3 sets. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. If you like this approach of fascia decompression that we did by decompressing certain areas in and around the TFL, the IT band, but you want a full body approach, you can check out our block therapy starter kit in the description below. And now for the routine breakdown. So we're gonna be starting off with the fascia decompression protocol. You're gonna spend 3 to 5 minutes in each position. So starting with that TFL for 3 to 5 minutes, and then we work into the IT band. You'll also spend 3 to 5 minutes there. Next, we move into the glute extension and external rotation exercise, similar to that bridge. You're gonna perform 8 to 10 repetitions and do about 2 to 3 sets of those. Then we're gonna be moving into the adductor knee rolls, and you're gonna do 8 to 10 repetitions, 2 to 3 sets of those. And then you're gonna be moving on to the kickstand hinge, and you're gonna be performing 8 to 10 repetitions, and again 2 to 3 sets. So this is a pretty extensive protocol to follow, and I know it can take some time, but we need to put in the work and effort to decompress and retrain the body how to move. So if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below if this is helping you out, because that really gives me feedback on how to improve these videos and to come up with new ideas to really help you out. And of course, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.